Hey, we're cooking with gas here. On the Jewcast.
Okay, careful using a phrase like that.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of two mockeries, of a sham.
Tradition!
Oh, shut up, Carl! Shut your goddamn Jew mouth! You people are why there's war in the Middle East!
Gekakkenaf van Jan.
Nebbig.
Ver poepoepoe.
Vermischt.
Verkakt.
Vertutst.
Verstonken.
Fartig.
Exactly.
You're what Grammy Hall would call a real Jew.
Here we go again, episode 79 of American Jew, coming at ya.
Yeah, we're doing it again. 79 episodes for your listening enjoyment. We want to thank everybody who's been with us from episode 1.
And don't be
Thanks,
afraid.
Mom.
Yeah, don't be afraid to tell your friends about this show. You know, you could convert them into fans of our show.
Yeah, you can.
It's legal.
It's legal to convert. I guess now we got to talk about the conversion story.
I mean, you know, I feel like right off the bat, I came up with a hell of a segue, and I'm loving it already.
I mean, that was definitely the segue to go with it. So this is very interesting, a little bizarre. I don't like it.
No,
I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, it seems. It definitely, you know, they say that the Jews control the media, but they're really looking to control Judaism. The Jews are going to control Judaism, is what they want to do.
Israel is looking to control Judaism. At least the Interior Ministry is. Apparently, if they have their way, group conversions performed at what they call emerging Jewish communities will no longer be recognized by Israel.
Right.
Which kind of means that, you know, people who choose to convert to Judaism that do so, I guess, in remote Jewish communities that aren't well known, they won't be allowed to immigrate to Israel. I think this is all crazy and ridiculous. I mean, if you want to be Jewish and you want to believe in the Torah and do the mitzvahs and it's important to you to be a Jewish person, then I don't think, you know, whatever rabbi, you know, gives you a prayer or whatever should matter. Now, I guess this really pertains to groups, because what's happening in these small Jewish communities is like a rabbi will come through town and he won't be able to give each person individual conversion, so they'll just do kind of like a group conversion. And the Israel court, you know, I guess they're worried that people in third world countries are going to want to make Aliyah and move to Israel and take all the benefits that are offered to Jews doing that, when I guess they're just trying to screw over the system, or they're trying to.
So they're afraid people are going to convert to Judaism simply for the birthright.
Simply for the birthright.
Although I understand it is still kosher to convert purely for the jokes.
Convert for the jokes.
I mean, I'm just making.
So you know, Israel has something called the law of return. Apparently means that anybody that has at least one Jewish grandparent is the spouse of a Jew or a Jew by choice, or one that's been converted by what they call a recognized Jewish community, you know, I guess established Jewish community with a rabbi, is eligible for Aliyah. So they're trying to say that these kind of Jews aren't eligible.
You know, I think it was going even further. They were saying that it had to be like an ultra-Orthodox rabbi.
Well, that's not according to the law of return. It doesn't matter whether the conversion is overseen by Orthodox or non-Orthodox rabbis. But I guess the more Orthodox rabbis are the ones that are more concerned with this. So, I mean, I think it's crappy. I think we need more Jews. We need as many Jews as we can. Israel obviously needs as much support as it can muster. If somebody wants to be Jew, if they're going through the process, whether it's in a third world poor country, an emerging Jewish community, which I would think we need more of, and we should be encouraging instead of discouraging by saying that Israel doesn't recognize them.
You know, I'll also say this, you know, as the Jewish people, we don't really recruit. We don't look for people to convert. You know, if you want to convert to Judaism, you're welcome. But it's so strange that we talk about how much anti-Semitism is in the world, how much people hate the Jews. To think that there's a huge population of people that are clamoring to become Jewish, in the face of the fact that we are hated. Like, who wants that? It's hard for those two things to exist simultaneously in the world. People hate the Jews, and people can't wait to be us.
And we don't want you to be.
And
it doesn't give us a good name. It doesn't help anti-Semitism. And just, in case it was confusing before, so the Interior Ministry, it does not distinguish between Orthodox and non-Orthodox Jews by choice. That it says it views all group conversions as unacceptable when it comes to the law of return.
Well, it's complicated stuff there. I think it is. I'm of the opinion, and I think you and I have talked about this before. Like, if you want to be a Jew and you want to embrace that heritage of your own, or the that particular culture because it's something that speaks to you, why are we stopping people from embracing that? Why, I
don't know. I think Jews should have more of an open door policy. Personally, we've talked about this on the podcast before. If you want to be a Jew, be a Jew.
Yeah. I think it's disingenuous to tell people that the Jews are allowed to come to the homeland, but say, but only the ones that are specifically Jewish. We have to really vet your Jewishness.
Yeah, the ones that converted to our standard. There's enough division between us, but not all. There doesn't have to be, and I think a good example of that is an ad that was taken out of the New York Times by 627 different Jewish groups. Made up of Reform, Conservative, even Orthodox, Reconstructionists, in support of the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yeah, a huge ad, full page.
A huge ad. We speak with one voice when we say unequivocally, Black Lives Matter. We are Jewish organizations and synagogues from across the racial and political spectrum, from different streams of Judaism, whose members face their lineage from countries around the world.
No, you and I have talked about this on the show a number of times about how it's so important for us to stand in solidarity with that movement because they have the same people fighting against them. The white supremacist groups and white nationalists and the people that seek to destroy the rhetoric of people who just want equality is the same for the Black Lives Matter movement and for Jews.
No, for sure. We both suffered bigotry, inequality. We've both been made to feel like we're less than, and we need to come together. And I think that's great. There was something that I thought was really in this group, in this ad. There are people that are Zionist organizations, and then there are even organizations that back BDS.
Okay.
And still they're able to come together. And I guess when the organizers were asked, like, wow, was that hard to get the people to come together? She said, what the response to this letter has shown is that people are not succumbing to the politics of division. We are seeing the need to join together even when we are in disagreement on core issues. And I feel like this is something that is even more than just, between Zionists and anti-Israel people, but between Republicans and Democrats, between everybody, between the whole world. This woman's response needs to kind of be the feelings of everybody to bring people together. Dove Kent is her name, by the way. The senior strategy advisor at Bend the Arc, Jewish Action. I think what she said is just amazing. That we need to come together even if we disagree. And especially in America these days, Trump has sowed such division between everybody. He has us at each other's throats. And America's never going to be great. I'm like a liberal. I'm very liberal. But I know that the only way America could be the best country for all its people is for Democrats and Republicans to come together. And I think the same thing, of course, with Israel and Palestine, for people that are anti-Israel and the Zionists to find a common ground. And I think that's what we have to do across the board.
When we recognize our similarities more than our differences, that's when things are great, I would say.
Yeah, so I'm very happy that this ad was taking place, to see all these Jewish groups come together. I hope it sets an example to all Jewish people to come together. Of course, we've discussed this in the past, that there is some even racism in Judaism, and that black Jews sometimes are made to feel like less than by other Jews, and that needs to end. Hopefully we could take this lesson of coming together and apply it to other aspects of our lives and other views that we have that are different from other people. And New York Times, I like it.
And similarly, in that same kind of vein, of relatively good news, I guess, is what's happening in Austria. The Austrian government is going to allow Jews from around the world who have descendants in that are Austrian to get Austrian citizenship and get an Austrian passport without having to give up their current passport.
That's right. If they were persecuted by the Nazi regime, or their descendants can become Austrian citizens, which is good. They don't have to give up an Israeli passport, an American passport, whatever passport they have. They could also have this Austrian citizenship. Apparently Austria's like been one of the countries that's kind of like dragged its feet a little bit with making kind of reparations for the Jewish people that suffered at the Nazis' hands, and now they're starting to do something.
It's more than just reparations they haven't been giving up. It took them a long time to even acknowledge that they were part of the problem.
Yeah, they were. They feel like victims too, but still, this is a good step in the right direction. And hopefully this could be an example to us. By the way, about 65,000 Austrian Jews were murdered during the Holocaust, and the population changed dramatically when Austria was annexed by Germany during the war. I think there were something like just under 200,000 Jews living there. This Austria, the World War II, the Holocaust, the Nazis, this happened a while ago, and European countries are still trying to do right by the Jews.
Yeah.
I hate when people compare what's going on in Israel and Palestine to the Holocaust. I think it's a very false equivalency. But that doesn't mean that we can't look at as an example of people that were involved with doing something wrong to people that realized later on that was wrong. They want to make up for it and make right by it. And I think that's something that we need to keep in mind with the Palestinian people. I think Israel has the state of the right to exist, but so does Palestine. We were a little shady with how we, took that land in 1948 and how we've acted since then. A lot of times it has been in defense, and I know we're trying to protect ourselves and protect the Jewish state, but to me, there would be no bigger mitzvah than finding a way to love thy neighbor.
Well, it's
straight from the Bible.
It's upsetting that Netanyahu.
And we should do that because us Jews are smart, and that's the smart thing to do.
Well, listen, it's upsetting that that Netanyahu is pitting Jews against each other in a lot of the rhetoric that's coming out of Israel.
Unfortunately, he's following Trump's lead of sowing tension between people in order to rally up his base. But, we are not fans of Netanyahu on the podcast. He needs to go, and hopefully he will. I mean, he might even go to jail. But nonetheless, let's talk about this Andrew Sullivan.
Okay, yeah.
his belief that Jews are smarter.
He's the first time that it's bad news that somebody is pro-Semitic.
So Andrew Sullivan isn't even Jewish.
No, not Jewish. Apparently, they say that he is a what do they call him? Famously conflicted gay Catholic.
A gay Catholic, all right. Yeah, his parents must not be very happy. But hey, this is where he says, hey, look at Nobel Peace Prizes. Like a lot of Jews are winning that. That's got to be an example. That's got to say something. He's also said something in the past where he said Asian Americans, like Jews, are indeed the problem for some social justice brigade. I mean, how on earth have both ethnic groups done so well in such profoundly racist societies? How have bigoted white people allowed these minorities to do so well, even to the point of earning more on average than whites? And, I mean, we talk about this a lot. This is a huge source of anti-Semitism, that the Jews do well, that the Jews are successful, that the Jews make money.
I thought it's part of the American dream to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and engage in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that's what the Jews have done all across the world. Why is that a bad thing?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, yeah, when other people do it, it is, fulfilling the American dream. But when Jews seem to do it, it's part of the cabal. It's part of the mass conspiracy, the Rothschilds, the George Soros, everybody wanting to rule the world. You would think
that if we're so smart, we'd be better at making sure that we don't get called out for being successful.
The people that are calling her out are stupid.
Yeah.
They're listening to the protocols of the Elders of Zion, something that's been proven to be one of the most famous forgeries of all time, and people take it like scripture, So they're the ones that are stupid. And I got to say, that's how impressive it is. The Jews have had a hard time, okay? The Jews have been the minority. The Jews have suffered anti-Semitism and bigotry, and yet we have persevered.
And I think that is a story that isn't only to Jews, it's to all people. It's, it's the people that sometimes grow up with only one parent, with people that grow up in poor communities, people that are dealt a hand of adversity, strive to overcome that adversary and excel. That's something I feel like that should be encouraged and we should be proud of, and I'm proud of the Jewish people for that, and I'm proud of that's one of the reasons why I'm proud to be a Jew. And it just sucks that there's such hatred. Anti-Semitism is acceptable.
Well, it's so weird that even a guy like this who's listen, I'm not saying that the Jews are smarter, but check out the Jews. They're pretty smart. I mean, look, they won all these Nobel Peace Prizes. I'm just saying. It's I don't understand how other people being hey, I don't know why we're giving all this crap to the Jews, because these are some smart motherfuckers. And Jews are shh, quiet, keep it down. We don't need people. We're not trying to call attention to ourselves. Because the rest of the world is yeah, let's get them.
We do call attention to ourselves, but we don't want it in a bad way. But it's true. Every Jew hater, I bet there's something that they like that was created by a Jew, whether it's music, whether it's TV, whether it's a film, whether it's a book, whether it's something that came from Einstein.
Well, you know what? I'll say this. I will say this, and I think this is a good way to sum this up for us this week, is that if you subscribe to our podcast, that is proof to me that you are morally and intellectually superior to the vast majority of people. That's what I say.
Well, yes, we would love it if you subscribed, if you left us a 5-star review on iTunes. We have a great guest today. I'm excited to bring this. She's a comedian and actress. I met her a couple years ago doing a comedy show, a Jewish comedy show, and she kind of really blew me away because she is an Orthodox Jew, and this was an Orthodox Jew. It was for an Orthodox Jewish school or something. Just the way these young girls who I feel are pretty much being groomed to just kind of get married and and have kids and have a husband, and to see the way they reacted so positively to her really was inspiring to me. So her name is Jessica Schechter, and she's going to be on the show right now, and we're thrilled to have her. We're very excited to have Jessica Schechter on the show. Jessica, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me here.
It's our pleasure. Jessica is an Orthodox Jew, right?
That's the word on the street.
That's what they've been telling me. I was just telling Jordon the story about how we met, which I've told Jessica, I think, every single time that I've seen her since. Because it was just so inspiring to me to see the way these young Jewish girls lit up and were inspired by Jessica. And I saw them, I felt them feeling empowered, and I thought that was amazing.
That was a great event. I really had so much fun, and it was such a treat to watch you interact with them as well. I mean, they just ate it up. It was great. Yeah, I think it's really important, especially when I was growing up. I don't think I saw any Orthodox female Jewish comedians anywhere. So it was a really wonderful thing to be able to show them that is something that's possible, and to make jokes about things that are relatable for them.
Definitely. Are you still doing? I know Jessica's also an actress. Are you still doing stand-up, or are you focusing more on acting right now?
I'm doing it all, kind of. I've always been a multifaceted artist. So I work on a web series. I produce and act in that, and we're developing our next episode. And I've been doing stand-up comedy for a bunch of years now, and I've even transitioned into the Zoom world of comedy, which
as we all have.
Strange.
Yes.
Yes. And yeah, I mean, for me, comedy's always been a little more on the hobby end, but I always kind of think of it as a muscle that I never, ever want to stop flexing, because I think that the gift to be able to make others laugh is so important and so valuable, and, you use it or lose it. So I really try to push myself, even though it's not my, main career, to continuously put myself out there and find opportunities to perform and keep writing. because it's something that I always want to be able to do. And then I'm also teaching and doing voiceovers and, living that special artist life of doing 1,000 things.
Right.
Which is great, especially like seeing an Orthodox Jewish woman who's pursuing her dreams and not letting, the norms of the community kind of dictate her future. Jessica, by the way, got engaged in a comedy club.
Oh, really?
I did.
Yes,
I got
Go
engaged
ahead,
at Stand Up New York, which is the very first place that I did comedy.
Okay.
So it has like really special meaning for me. And my husband now didn't even know that at the time, that comedy club had such significance for me. It wasn't just a comedy club. It was the very first place I got up on stage to do stand-up.
Did he do this like after a show?
No, he had booked it. It was before a show was starting. Jonathan, you're a part of this story, actually. Little did you know. But my husband booked it for kind of before a show went up and an in-between time and an off time.
Okay.
So we had the place to ourselves, and it was actually really wonderful and romantic and nice. But the whole week that we were getting engaged, my husband his name is Aaron, he kept trying to psych me out and confuse me over it was my birthday week, and he didn't want me to know if and when we were getting engaged. So every day he was planning things to throw me off, and he kept fake proposing. Like he would get down on one knee, but then nothing would happen. He would tie his shoe, so he did that the whole week. And of this week, when he booked the stand-up comedy, I said, well, that's probably not a real thing. I didn't believe him. So I looked up to see who was performing at Stand Up New York that night. And Jonathan, you were on the bill.
Okay, yes, I love Stand Up New York. I consider it my home club. I think they're great. It's the first comedy club that I did stand-up comedy, and I performed, I think, at some open mics, but that was the first official club that I performed in. They are being super great to the comedy community right now. They're producing about almost 10 shows a night at parks throughout the city. Definitely check them out. They list them on Instagram at Stand Up New York. But I'll be performing this week on their shows.
Who'd have thought that we'd finally get paid for screaming at people in the park?
I know, right? Outside shows, they're different for sure. It's great to be performing again. It's fun to be outside around people. We've talked about this. Of course, people talk about this now. New York is dead, whatever. We talked about this. I don't think so. I think this is an amazing time for New York, especially for artists and for innovation and for creativity and for creating new things. And Stand Up New York has given that opportunity to comedians, and I am very grateful to them. Hopefully, we'll have Donnie Zoldan on the show, one of the owners there soon, who also came from a very Jewish community. But yeah, that's so great that Stand Up New York has had such a positive impact on both of our lives.
Yeah, I mean, I love that place, and it's really interesting how people are finding new ways to do their art. I went to the Jim Gaffigan show out in New Jersey. He performed it to a parking lot. It was like a huge parking lot to lots of cars, and it was really interesting to see the comedians try to make their way through that kind of environment where you can't hear the laughter.
Right.
And we would listen to it on the car radio, almost like in a drive-in movie. But it was a great experience, and I give just so much credit to all the comedians.
The first show I did when after COVID was at a drive-in, and while it was awkward, it was just so great to be performing again and to see that people, how much they appreciate comedy, how much they appreciate entertainment.
I wonder also, on the flip side of that, how involved you've been with your, Jewish community during this period of time. I know that we've talked a lot about on the show about how it seems like the only news you hear about the Orthodox community is that they're not social distancing or wearing masks, and that there's like it's a hot spot for stuff, and that's all you really hear about. But I wonder to hear from somebody on the ground there what's actually happening.
I think it really depends on where you live and who is your community. I live on the Upper West Side. People are being very responsible here, wearing masks and social distancing and trying to find ways to come together safely, embracing a lot of outside environments. But for me, I think I've been around people that, are taking everything seriously and are being careful. And I think things, the media just blows a lot of stuff up, and everybody's got to find their own,
Well, let me ask you, a big part of Judaism, I think, is a sense of community. And obviously, COVID has really had a negative effect on that, whether it's, having a Seder together, having the high holidays coming up with your families, going to synagogue to prayer. How does this affected, you?
I mean, it hugely. My in-laws used to come for most of the holidays. We purposely got an apartment with a second bedroom because I kind of knew they live in Florida and they've come for many years for the holidays, and that's kind of been a part of the ritual. And so to not have them for Passover, and usually they would come for all of the high holidays. So it's definitely really challenging to not be able to be with family. I saw my mom for the first time in 6 months, social distanced in, the yard of her house. And it's definitely really challenging to find community and when I haven't really been going to synagogue and doing the kinds of things that bring that ritual. And it's definitely something I miss. Makes me appreciate it for sure. And I think all of the Jewish communities are trying to figure out ways, especially with the high holidays coming, of how can we have some semblance of a service and be together as a community and still keep each other safe.
Right.
And those are tricky questions. Each place is handling it in different ways. Yeah.
Do you have plans for Rosh Hashanah? I mean, what is that looking like? I know I'm not going. I stopped going to temple myself pretty much many years ago, so I don't even know if I have a congregation. So I don't even know.
They're up in the air right now, but we're hoping to go to some kind of outdoor service. That's
okay. You can hear the shofar on YouTube, by the way.
You can, but I wouldn't be listening to. I'm pretty Orthodox, so I wouldn't be turning on technology on the holiday. But I'm hoping to find an outdoor service. That's how I am going to navigate this.
Has that been harder for you because of COVID and people are stuck indoors, and then it comes Sabbath or a holiday, and it's like there's really nothing you can do. At least before, you could go to synagogue, you could go to a friend's place for Shabbat, Friday night meal or Saturday lunch, or now you can't really do any of those things. You're very isolated.
I think I felt that way far more in March, April time when the weather got nicer and it became clearer that getting together socially distant outdoors is not as problematic as other things, as if you're wearing masks and everything. So since the summer hit, I've actually felt like things have been quite social, especially on the Sabbath. I'm always at the park, at Central Park, and a lot of times we'll gather with friends and everyone will have their own picnic blankets, and it's just so refreshing and lovely to be with people. So the summer has made life a lot easier.
Right.
I am concerned for when things get cold in New York, how we'll be able to navigate that, but I'm just going to eke out as much time as I can to be with people. But Central Park is a wonderful gathering place, and we've been taking a lot of walks in the North Woods, which is so beautiful. I actually think I've been outside more than any summer before because that's the main place.
Because there's nowhere else to go.
That's true. And exploring locally, too, because we didn't get to travel internationally or anything like that. We had big plans. They all got canceled. Really appreciating New York and Pennsylvania and Airbnbs and just nature and local fun.
We talk a lot about anti-Semitism on this podcast, and you're an Orthodox Jewish woman. Have you faced any anti-Semitism?
Personally, I think I've been extremely lucky. I had been discouraged by so many people when I was pursuing theater professionally that there's no place to be Orthodox. That's not a thing. People don't do that. They'll never let you observe what you observe and be in that world. And it's a lot of fear-based talking, or maybe people had negative experiences. I have been extremely fortunate to have been a part of institutions and programs that were very respectful. I know that my story is not everybody's story. I went to NYU's educational theater program. They were wonderful. I got my MFA at the Actors Studio Drama School at Pace University. They were incredible. They've embraced me for who I am. I've found many opportunities to perform my art because I'm Orthodox, not in spite of it. And so I am very lucky that I have not experienced it directly so much. I know that others have. I know that there is increasing anti-Semitism in New York and all around the world, and that's very disconcerting when we hear hate speech and awful things. But so far, I haven't experienced anything directly.
What about even as like a Jewish woman? You know, you obviously you dressed modestly, but you're a beautiful girl. Do you ever get like catcalled or something where it kind of like they bring in Judaism or they bring in like your modesty?
I would get catcalled, but they wouldn't go like, "Oh, you're covering yourself up." That wouldn't.
It would be like, "Why don't you come over for Saturday?"
You know,
I got
think
9 guys. We just need our 10th to have a minion. No, I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've experienced anything more specifically because I'm Orthodox in terms of getting catcalled. I think I get catcalled just like all the other people. It would be a weird catcall.
What about on the flip side of like, other Orthodox Jews sort of putting you down for being an independent woman who speaks her mind and, gets to be on the stage and everything, where that's usually not the case?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely met with a lot of challenge, especially at the beginning. Once you've kind of proven that you're doing it, I felt like people stopped questioning it.
Right.
But when you're at the origin story of this and deciding to go to graduate school, deciding to pursue this professionally, and it's not modeled and it's not done, then it confuses people. And I got a lot of pushback of, what are you going to do? How would you make this work? Is that really appropriate? How are you ever going to get married? Who would, all these kinds of things. But, I'm very lucky. I found somebody that appreciates me for me, and anyone who didn't. And I dated a lot of men, and a lot of them who didn't really get me or understand me, that was a great litmus test, because if someone wasn't going to want to be with me because of who I am, then that's not somebody I would want to be with. And the communities and the people who kind of discourage me, I stay away from. I don't think you can change communities from the inside out. You have to find places that embrace you. On the Upper West Side, nobody's questioning my choices. If I lived in a more insular community, I might have gotten a lot more pushback and lack of support, but I probably wouldn't have stayed in those communities. I think you got to find your people.
I just want to ask you, because I just loved what you did with those girls, and I love what you do with who you are and your beliefs and your creativity and everything. What message would you want to send out to any young Orthodox, religious, Hasidic, whatever girls out there that want to do something that they get resistance, whether it's from the community, their parents, or whatever?
I would tell them, for the time that you're not in control of your environment and the things that you can do, to keep creating, keep writing, keep doing things, keep that muscle alive. Try to find as many people that you can that do believe in what you're doing. Find friends that think you're funny and think you're artistic and want to create and collaborate. We start to gather your people. When you do have the opportunity to kind of go off on your own, don't let the naysayers bring you down, because life is very multifaceted. There is a million ways to be Jewish and a million ways to be an artist. It's not an easy path. It's not a path for the faint of heart. But if you're an artist, then you can't do anything else. And so I say to people who, have that drive, that it's part of your godly mission to use your talents and express them. And if you keep at it, then you'll find ways and places to perform and to express yourself. It just may not be a clear path, but it doesn't mean that it can't be done.
We're going to wrap things up, but we have a couple questions that we like to ask all our guests. What's your favorite Jewish food?
My favorite Jewish food? I like matzo balls.
Matzo balls, all right. Big fan myself.
Do you like the soft ones or the hard ones?
Soft. Gotta be soft.
Gotta be soft, I agree. Fluffy all the way.
Fluffy all the way.
What's your favorite Jewish holiday?
Purim. That's an easy one.
Oh, yeah?
Purim.
Why so? Is it the alcohol or the cookies?
The alcohol's nice, but it's the costumes.
The costumes.
I take
what
my
were you
costume
last
very
Purim?
seriously. So my last Purim was like the last hurrah. It was right before COVID happened. My husband and I he was Maui from Moana and I was Tafiti. So I dressed up as a green plant-like figure. This is from the movie Moana. And I was going around shopping the day of Purim, and a man from one of the markets said I was the most beautiful plant he had ever seen.
Move over, Groot.
That was a great moment.
Who's your favorite Jew of all time?
Wow. Living or in the past?
Whatever, any Jew, biblical, fictional, real, dead, alive.
I mean, I'm a big fan of my namesake, Devorah, from the Bible. Devorah she was a judge and a prophetess, and that's what my Hebrew name is, Devorah. And I always loved her story because she wasn't the typical woman in the tent. She was a leader, and she was out there, and she led them to battle, and she was just awesome. And I always admired her, and I think that I've inherited a lot of the qualities of the name.
Absolutely. I
Cool.
think you're awesome, and
Thank
I'm so
you.
glad that you came on the show. And
Thank you for having me. This was
my
awesome.
pleasure.
Yeah, what do you want to plug? Where can people find more about you?
Sure. At my website, jessicaschechter.com, on Instagram, on just.shek, S-H-E-K. And you can find me on Facebook, Jessica Schechter. And, watch Soon by You. That's the web series. And you can find that on YouTube. Thank you so much for having me here. It's been great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jessica.
Yes, thanks
Stay
for coming
healthy.
on.
Have a good one.
You
Bye.
too. Oh, yeah. Well, thanks to Jessica for coming on the show. I just want to reiterate what I said earlier, that if you subscribe and give us a nice 5-star review, I will consider you to be intellectually superior to those that have not.
And an honorary Jew if you're not one. Check us out on all social media at American Jew Podcast. Email us at americanjewpodcast@gmail.com. I'm on all social media at Jonathan Randall.
You can always find me at Beatnik Nudnik. And thanks for listening, guys.
See you next week.
See you next week.